Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Manuel Cerda, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about a presentation. Well, I will explain how transformation leadership framework described and Desiree Aquino Fenton and their 2016 breakthrough principles align with two principal concepts: Standard One, which is instructional leadership, and Standard Four, school culture. These two standards are very fundamental to creating schools where students thrive and teachers grow. We will walk through a couple, I'm going to go ahead and explain a couple of concepts of transformation leadership and explore how they can connect with leadership responsibilities in the Texas schools. So, the first thing I'm going to go ahead and talk about is transformational leadership. It is not just about managing the operations, but rather than creating a vision, inspiring action, producing a meaningful change, such as in chapter 1 of Breakthrough Principles. The author explains how transformational leaders act as change agents. They define success around the student's outcome and work relentlessly to build systems that support every learner. This type of style leadership is something that's proactive, purpose driving, and people centered. So, in chapter one, I go ahead and talk about the transformational leadership framework, which includes four essential domains, which is vision and values, which is clarifying and aligning school goals with daily practices; self leadership, which is engaging in self reflection and growing as a model for others; focus on instruction, which is leading and teaching and learning with intentional strategies; influence communication, which is building trust, relationships, and collecting efficiency. Each domain is explained, of course, through chapter one, and it serves as a foundation for breakthrough through school improvement. So, Standard one of Texas Principles Standard focuses on ensuring a strong instructional program that promotes student achievement. So, when it comes to principals, they are expected to establish high expectations, monitor instructions, analyze student data, and support professional learning, growth, and community. This standard requires leaders to deeply engage with the way teaching and learning is involved. So you ask yourself, how does this align to standard one with the framework? How does it align? So the domain focus on instruction from the transformational leadership framework, which aligns directly to standard one. In chapter one of Darren and Reese 2016, it describes how effective principals are instructional leaders who visit classrooms daily, give feedback, drive data for better results. The vision and values of the domain ensures that all instruction decisions are grounded in a unified academic mission, which helps them succeed throughout the year, which comes down to self leadership. Self leadership is a way we encourage ourselves as principals to be learners and reflect on the instructional leadership, which is seeking feedback from your staff. So, one of the examples of how standard one would be applied into practice is is as a principal, I lead weekly data in meetings and teachers. So something I would do is model the data analysis, of course, support reteaching strategies, especially on those lower SEs, and celebrate instructional growth. As described in chapter one, is active engagement from the principal builds trust and improves results through your staff and the students, which carry on. This transformational instructional is called leadership. When you're a great leader, it leads to results being resulted. So now I'm going to go ahead and talk about principle number four, which is school culture. So standard four emphasizes on the importance of cultivating a positive school culture, which includes establishing an inclusive, safe, and collaborative environment that supports the social, emotional, and academic success of all students. It also involves setting clear behavioral expectations and supporting staff well-being. So, how does Standard 4 align to framework? This domain influences and communicates as the heart of the standard. As such, in chapter 1, it emphasizes transformational leaders Build trust through transparent communication and meaningful relationship. This is very important because self-leadership ensures that as a principal, you'll model empathy and equity. And then your vision and values give the culture purpose as a shared why. Like, why do we do this? We do this to establish success in the classroom and carry on. So one of the examples that I can provide how standard 4 will play into effect is, for example, if you have a school with a strong culture, the principal can greet the students daily, lead lead activities with their students, recognizes how staff contributes to the better success of the school, and these actions in the end will influence the communication of the domain, which is to build a culture of care and connection with everyone, the students, the staff, anyone in your school. Such as in chapter 1, where it says a great principal is the shape not only what happens in the classroom, but how people feel in the building. It all comes in connection with each other. So, how do we connect both standards? So, as a transformational leadership, it integrates the vision, the relationship, and the instructional expertise. So, one of the examples to addressing achievement gaps is a principal might use the data to focus on instruction, will set a school-wide goal which comes to the vision and values, will lead with a courageous and conservation, which means to influence and communicate as the head. Communicate and make sure that all your staff and your students are on your side and that they all lead towards the success of the vision and goal you have developed. And the other one will be reflect on the bias and practices of a self leader. So this approach will help support both standard 1 and standard 4 because if you reflect on yourself, you're able to grow as a principal and then go back and influence your staff, which then again it's like a trickle down effect. It affects your students, it affects everyone, and everyone comes together to work towards your vision and goal. So another thing that I would like to is like to add to this is basically as a principal is not only about leading, it's about coaching the teachers, which is basically just going out there making walkthroughs, leading POCs, which is instructional meetings that happen throughout the week, hosting student events, student meetings, and then of course reflecting how your students and staff feels. This at the end will help reinforce your instructional leadership because it creates a school culture and it will help you achieve any expectations or visions that you have. So you ask yourself, what is the main outcome of this? If you as a principal, you go out there and lead with transformational leadership, the outcomes are clear. It helps improve instruction, it empowers staff, excuse me, sorry. It engages students and it helps thrive communication with your community, such as in chapter 1, which makes it clear break through the results from the breakthrough of the leadership. So it all comes from the how you react as a leader and how the results are going to come in its own. So in the small summary, standard 1 is basically the way you focus on instruction, vision, values, and self-leadership. Standard 4 is the way you support and influence communication and through your self-leadership, your visions, and your values. And of course, your four how your four domains are connected to reinforce yourself as a principal, how you're gonna have the impact to succeed and make sure that the whole staff, the students, anyone that works in your school helps you achieve your goals, which is the most important. You gotta make sure as a leader, you're always improving and learning from your staff in order to create that successful environment and keep moving forward.